What is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and I am here with Mr. Peter Seckler, also known on YouTube as Empyrean Vol. Is that how I say it?
Yeah.
Awesome. And if you guys have been watching, some of my latest videos within the last, I don't know, few months, you've probably heard me mention Peter in the Discord, and it's just been really cool, kind of seeing his progress and getting into making comics more regularly and stuff. It's just been awesome. You've been knocking it out, and I just wanted to see. What can you let people know, like, where they can find you? I actually put some links in the description, but yeah.
Well, primarily right here on YouTube, my Empyrean Vol channel is where I would love people to tune in. I've mostly got like drawing videos and things like that, and they're not super long. I know it's kind of boring to watch a dude drawing for 10 minutes, so actually I speed it up so you can just see it really quick. Mostly there. I'd love if you join the Discord. I put prompts up in the daily draw if you want to fill out your sketchbook. Sketchbooking is something I really kind of absolutely love. After Inktober, I really got into just filling out sketchbooks, and I've killed a number of them. I have a stack behind me, but I have a couple over there as well. And just the idea of doing 4 to 8 pages a day is a big deal. So if you come to the Discord, which I think the link will be in the description at some point, you'll see the daily draw prompt, and there'll be all kinds of things for you to draw. My big problem when I was filling out my sketchbook is I started drawing my characters, and after a while I got bored drawing those. I go, what else do I draw? And you completely just draw a blank. Like, what next, right? And then so I started coming up with all kinds of off the wall things to draw after that.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to draw is a blank.
Yeah, absolutely. He couldn't draw flies.
There you go. Yeah, that's cool too.
That's what they used to say.
So yeah, I mean, once again, that's a big part of it, like the sketching, and I know I've within the past, I don't know, 10 years, I finally got to a point where I have a better relationship with my sketchbook, because I used to feel like I had to draw like beautiful drawings in there, and I don't know, I would treat it differently than I used to. Like I would never fill them up. I would just keep buying them, fill up a few pages, and then buy another one and fill up a few pages.
Did that too. Yeah. and now and I would really like overwork the drawings that were in there. I'd be like, oh, this is going to be really perfect. I mean, I've always been a drawer, but once I got past that, once I got past the idea of just more quantity, more quantity over quality, and a couple of Jake Parker videos, that was a breakthrough really for me, because I was actually able to proceed in advance in certain ways that I never was able to before. I can draw hands now, kind of. I couldn't draw hands to save my life in 30 years of drawing.
Yeah, it's when you don't treat your sketchbook like super precious, and the goal is not to make beautiful drawings. It's actually just to fill it up with as many crappy drawings as you can. Maybe some of them turn out good. Then
sad but true. It's
you get much further, I think, personally.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where if you could make 1,000 mistakes, that's 1,000 lessons learned. But if you just take care to make the one drawing that has no mistakes, you probably learn maybe one good thing out of that drawing, or maybe a couple of things. But the 1,000 mistakes method, and I heard that mentioned to me a couple of times, was actually pretty brilliant. And who's to say you can't just turn the page and just do another drawing if you didn't like the first one? Keep drawing, and pretty soon your baseline. You might be able to just really work up a drawing and keep erasing and keep tweaking and keep fixing and get the perfect drawing. But if you turn the page and start all over again, it sounds like a lot of work, but it's really not. The time that your graphite is on the paper is not that a long amount of time, and your baseline starts to move up to where you're not fixing as much. Although, I still erase tons. You can see the paper is shredded. Switching to different erasers and other things can help you as well. I use kneaded erasers now, or I used to just tear the shreds out of my rubber eraser. I have a instinctive, drawing and then switching, the other side to erase, and that always destroys the paper. But there's all kinds of little tricks and things.
I'm so used to flipping the pencil and stuff, because again, I've been drawing since I was a kid, and good old Ticonderoga, number 2 was the weapon of choice.
They have the good erasers on them too, the nice kind of supple rubber erasers, but they still are something that'll tear up the paper. Absolutely.
Yeah. And now that I have the iPad, like, I feel like the next time I go to draw, like traditionally, I'm going to be going like this.
Oh yeah,
that's how you switch from eraser to pencil.
I didn't even realize that's how it works. So I do the same thing. That was my other big breakthrough. Is I got an iPad Pro. I saw a video. I watch a lot of just kind of weird videos on YouTube, and then one day one came up. It wasn't you this time. It was BJ Dell. And I think, did you ever do a stream with BJ Dell? He was on a stream with Scott Circlin one time.
No, I
but
don't know what
it was some kind of thing, and he was like, how to draw eyes. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wish I could draw eyes better. So I watched the video, and he's like, this is the iPad Pro. And it's like, oh, this is amazing what he's doing. And I watched a couple of those, and then I went right from that one that same day into seeing your video about the one-page, fold up mini.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I could do that, because it just never occurred to me. I've always wanted to do comics. You draw a lot of characters. As I think everybody watching this has probably drawn a lot of characters, but did they ever get to the point where they were panelizing them and putting in backgrounds and trying to develop it into a story? And here you got a simple way to do that. It was like so simple.
I stole that from a buddy of mine, John Jono, I forget. He's an internet friend, but it's like Jono Bonifant. I forgot how he said his name, but he showed me that. Well, he actually showed the whole art and story group that. And then he did like a little video, and I was like, actually, it's funny because I always think of my first comic as the first glyph comic that I did. But to be honest, I think I finished that. I did that one really quick, like even before I finished the glyph one. It was around the same time, but
I think the one after that was I ran into problems folding it. I did another video, and it was like these little kids doing it. I'm like, oh my, little kids are doing this.
Yeah. It's funny. There's another video too.
How come I can't do it? I'm not a little kid.
Yeah. There's another video out there too, where this lady, she does it like all like crafty, and it's all like nice and stuff, but she's not doing like a comic. She said this is like a really good way to kind of plot, to create your outline for your story, and like each page has certain things that happen, and I don't know, that she has like this whole structure of how it does it, and I'm like,
that's kind of interesting. It's kind of funny because Len Jennings on the Discord, he's like, how do you do a 7-beat story thing on a one pager? And I was like, I don't know if you can. Shell Testa said the same thing. Like, because I went back and I thought about it. I was like, I never got to the 7 beats, but but that was the other thing. So once I think I did 4 or 5 of those fold up things, and then I tried to do one where I folded the paper in half, but I couldn't figure out how to print on both sides of the paper. That was the Western one I did. And then I thought, okay, let's just get some paper, and like
fold it up,
make a dummy, and this will be page 1, and this will be page 2, and I'll figure out how to print on both sides. And that's when I started doing the ash cans.
Yeah.
It's pretty quickly after that.
I don't think you can only do so much with that as far as like story goes. Like, I mean, anybody says you can't do something, you can always try to prove them wrong. But at the same time, that kind of thing is more, I think, meant for like little experiments and stuff, like little moments and stuff like that. It's like a comic strip or something.
Yep. Well, and I love comic strips. That's kind of my background. Is I love comics, but I also wanted to do comic strips. I wanted to be like Lil Abner. You know, I thought, oh yeah, it should be something funny like Pogo or Lil Abner, where you have like a little world and the humor is in the characters, not necessarily the situations. It's harder to do situation humor, because you really have to have this funny sense of the world to create situation after situation. But anybody can make a funny character. Anybody can, you know, everybody can do a pirate voice, right? It's like, you know, you know, so you can make up a character going, he's a pirate, you know, and just imagine all the dumb things a pirate might do, like a wacky pirate.
Yeah.
So that's easy. And then I thought, that's what I'll do. I'll do a strip. And so that immediately appealed to me. But after a while, it's like, you know, I could do superheroes. I love superheroes.
Yeah. It's you just kind of build off of everything you do.
Yeah.
So speaking about that, I did want to get into a little bit of your history so we can let people know, and also just as a note, real quick, what we were talking about with the 8-page one comic. Like, if you look at my channel, there's a couple videos called the 1 hour comic book challenge. So if you look for that video, you should be able to go to my main YouTube page and find it pretty easily. But that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, other than that, I just want
to launch 1,000 ships. I think that's a brilliant video, and I hope it inspires a lot of people to create things. I love seeing what other people do. That's also kind of fun to see what other people come up with. Sir Handsome, Evan Hill, he sent me one, and I think I have it. Yeah, here it is. This is one of those little tiny ones, Star Cats.
So cool.
And he sent me one, and it's funny stuff. And actually, it is pirates. So they're cat pirates. There's a dumb one, and then there's an angry one, and then there's the there's one with a peg leg. Oh, he's got a bandage for over his tail spot over here. It's, you know, there's so this is kind of what I was going for originally in my thoughts. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love what Sir Handsome does too. I cannot wait for the comic he's making right now.
His cartooning style is off the wall. It's great. It's so refined. It looks like something I would, you know, read in a newspaper or something like that. That cartoon style that he does. Very cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know he's inspired by Gru and stuff, which you know, Sergio Aragones and stuff like that, which is another one of my favorite comics.
Yeah, so, I loved him in Plop. Did you ever read Plop?
I have a couple of issues, but I didn't know he was in. That's like an anthology, right? The Plop.
It's a weird DC. They did it in the 70s. Yeah. It is like an anthology comic with just the barest bones of an overarching plot with the House of Mystery characters saying, you know, oh, we've been captured and you know, we're making the cartoonists do things, and it's mostly Sergio Aragones, so it's all the way through it. And he also does little spot illustrations, just like he did in Mad magazine, little spot illustrations and things like that.
Yeah, he's done so much. Maybe I don't have that. I thought maybe I'm thinking of something different, but yeah, that sounds like something definitely to check out. So
the covers were Basil Wolverton.
What's that?
The covers on Plop were Basil Wolverton.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I wanted to get into for like you recently. It seems like I think you told me August is when last year is when you kind of really started buckling down and like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna start making comics, and you just went for it like
absolutely
very few people I've ever seen, and been very prolific with it right out of the gate. I'd love to hear a little bit about like how that whole process went and what drives you with all that, you know.
Well, I started out, like I said, I was making the little tiny comics and things, and I wasn't sure if anybody was really that interested in them. Because we were all doing it. I think I did one called Mud for the 1 hour challenge, and I did a couple of Rabbit Fighters, which were very disjointed and weird, but they started off as 1 hour challenges that just went beyond an hour. So that's where that character came from. There's a song by T-Rex called Rabbit Fighter. That's where the character came from. That was just playing at the time. So we made those things. But One thing I can do, one thing about me is I'm pretty organized. You wouldn't believe it if you knew me, if you met me, but believe it or not, I'm actually pretty organized. I can do things like, I don't know, come up with a plan to get from point A, to point B, and done it in a bunch of different ways. And once I figured out that there's a whole process that you go through, and I figured out, and one of the breakthroughs was making that paper dummy. Get some copy paper and fold it in half, and then number the pages, and you realize, okay, so 1 will be on the right side of the first page, and then page 2 will be on the other side, on the left side. But page 8 will be on the left side of page 1. It's like, okay, well, that's very confusing until you have a dummy and you can actually look at it. So then I just went into Procreate and I made 4 pages, and then I numbered the halves of them, and then I came up with a story. Now, how you come up with the story, once again, just applied a process to it. Everything's procedural. We're going to start with a splash page. Splash page is going to have some action. It's going to create a situation, and you just kind of brainstorm what that might be. And then as far as the story beats, this is how we did it in the, we actually did this in the daily draw prompt, and several people completed 8-page, just following the procedure. It wasn't even that hard. So Sir Handsome did one. Shy Guy did one. And a couple of people seem to have gotten about halfway through, and then we may have lost track of them. It's like, because we were moving pretty quick. We did 1 page a day, and I thought, because I heard that's the standard. I don't know if it's a standard or not a standard, but we set it at 1 page a day, and and pretty soon, within a week, people had comics.
Yeah.
So
it's so awesome. It's like it's kind of like I don't know. It's like one of those things where like almost like a pyramid scheme, but there's no scheme to it because nobody's making money.
Nobody's making a dime off.
Nobody makes money in the pyramid schemes half the time anyway.
I might actually be making some money. I'm up to I think I'm up to I might be up to $175 or something like that. I'm not quite. That's not money compared to how much I've sunk into art supplies and goofing around. But it's not real money, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's becoming a millionaire, except some people are. Somehow.
But it's kind of cool though, because like I put out like the 1-hour comic video and then like some of the mini comic stuff, and I've heard a lot of people say, I made my first comic like because of this video, and it's just so, every time I hear that I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And then like we have the Discord.
You've probably gotten that a bunch, right?
Kind of created it. What's that?
You've probably gotten that a bunch. I mean, I was one. I know that there are other people that have said the same thing, referring back to your same video.
Right, within the last year for sure. And and then I created the Discord, and it was like now we have a place for us to communicate and stuff. And now I see you guys doing it, and you're getting other people to do it. So it's like this whole like thing where everybody's getting people to do comics. I don't know if this is a good thing to spread, because there's a lot of people who have sad stories making comics, but I think
that's true. That's true. One time, actually, I don't know if you even remember this, but one time you were just talking about, I can't remember who you were talking to. You might have been just doing one of your single live streams, and you said, "No, there's some comic book riffraff out there," and I thought that was a very funny phrase. I thought, now if I could be one person, I want to be comic book riffraff. And so for a while, I was going to use that as my title, but I didn't use it.
That's funny.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, there's a million takes on it. I tend to go family friendly, PG rated. The animated what's the animated adventures style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember Bruce Timm and when Justice League Unlimited was coming out, and Bruce. I love that style, and they did a whole DC did a Justice Society JSA run that was in that style, and like, oh, this is the perfect style for me. So I kind of wanted to live in that style. Of course, it went away pretty quickly.
Yeah. A lot of people are inspired by him for sure, in animation and in comics. I was just going through some Savage Dragon comics for inspiration and trying to learn and stuff. And I ran across one of the pinups was a Bruce Timm pinup of Savage Dragon, and I'm like, oh, it's so cool, because he's just the shapes and stuff like that. It's just I love it so much.
His sense of shape is so incredible. It's you know, you can see that it's a box and a triangle, and he's made it perfect. And you know, it's like, oh, I would watch the show every day if it was a show.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that really struck me right out the gate, like you made your first kind of comic and sent it to people, you know, the Rabbit Fighter, and you know, with it you sent a little letter or whatever, and it was I even read it here one time on one of the live streams. And you know, you were just talking about kind of your background with punk rock and how it relates to that. And that's something, like, I don't have a background in punk rock, but I've been very much influenced by punk rock and you know, the whole DIY ethos and all of that. Can you elaborate a little bit on how that kind of
it's probably less jarring to just say it's the DIY ethos, but I don't think it comes across. It's often been said that maybe only 500 people bought the first Velvet Underground album, but every one of those people went out and started a band afterwards, right? So that's what happened. So that's the ethos. If I could lock it down, it doesn't mean you're that good. And I don't make the claim that I'm an incredible graphic artist or anything like that. Quite frankly, I'm pretty amateur, and I'm still struggling to improve my skills. But I'm but I can produce a lot of quantity. And I'm steadily improving. I can see my improvement. If nobody else can see it, I can see it. So,
yeah.
But there's also the idea, like, one of my favorite bands is the Ramones, is that you can go very simple and you can still achieve that's a recognizable rock song, and it's actually a listenable rock song. And there's nothing special going on. There's no guitar solo. There's no you know, there's no, you know, trickery or amazing, you know, audio tricks or things going on, but yet, oh, that works, you know, and it's the three chords and the truth, you know, or whatever it is. So that's the ethos that I was going for, is just to get across the idea of comics and get across the idea, because I love doing stories. I've been involved in role-playing games and writing stories and creating stories my whole life. Everybody, and probably everybody has. Probably a lot of people listening to this say, "Oh yeah, I make up stories all the time. I've been doing stuff like that, but I just can't draw, or I just can't do this, or I can't." The real question is just, can you get organized? Can you organize your stuff into things like a simple 7-beat, you know, 7-beat story structure, or can you tell a short story? Can you just do a sequence? That's the great thing about comics. Harvey Pekar once said, "It's words and pictures. You can do anything with words and pictures." Looking at everybody should watch that Crumb documentary. Crumb hated everybody, but it focuses on his early life, and you realize, you know, how much he loved comics, and you know, he was a humor guy. He liked those animal comics. He liked those you know, pretty childlike comics. He liked Animal Funnies, Dell Animal Funnies, which is the one with Pogo first appears in. He likes stuff like that. And then if you go back and you read other early things, and you actually showed me Comic Book Plus too. That's the first time I ran across that. And I'd always heard about Golden Age comic books and never really got to see them that much. And now you realize, oh, they're all public domain now. All right, so let's check out these public domain comics. And the comics themselves, they might be 48 to 60 pages, but the stories in them are 11 pages and 8 pages and 6 pages. Yeah. So there'll be like 5 stories. The first Plastic Man story is like 11 pages long, and you're like, there's not a whole lot happens. This is not an epic. This is not The Watchmen. Yeah. You know, this is not The Dark Knight Returns. But he's established something, and he established enough in the first story that I was going to Police Comics #2 to read the second Plastic Man appearance, and the third one and the fourth one, just because it's a fun character. And I thought, okay, well, anybody could do this as long as you can follow a procedure from you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, or a checklist. Check this box, check that box. Okay, now I've done the inking, and also make that procedure work for you. It's kind of funny. We had a discussion about this in the Discord. Why do you do lettering last? I do lettering last. It's because I don't write the dialogue until the final step.
Yeah.
Which is apparently wrong. Some people are like, oh, you should be writing a script.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really depends on how you want to approach it. There's a million ways to do it, and I think that way is, there's definitely some history behind it. That's how Kirby and Stan Lee worked,
Yeah, the so-called Marvel method. I kind of mentioned on Scott Strickland's stream because he has his How to Do Comics series that he's doing now, which is great, by the way, and he gives all the best advice. He's like, make it 8 pages, black and white. Don't go nuts, and you'll finish it. And he's totally right. He's like, he's not lying to you. Anybody who watches Scott Strickland's stream, he does not lie to you. He'll tell you exactly how to do it. You just have to listen to him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. He's a professional, and he's got definitely sound advice. I mean, I use his comic maker toolkit all the time, for creating characters, and that's what I use for my page layout and everything. Like
I use and his story structure builder kind of thing. It's a little bit it's a little bit big for me because I have my own methods, but it's a completely legitimate way to do it. He's like, okay, we're gonna have this character do this and this character do that. These are great tools. If I wasn't already a guy who could, kind of write a story, I would definitely be using Scott's stuff because it's really sharp.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is the other thing is I think artists should be working harder to write stories. That's the problem is we're used to seeing the pros, the quote unquote pros. And by the way, now that the bottom has fallen out of comics, nobody's a pro anymore. Either nobody is or we all are. So right. So artists should be doing the storytelling and the art. And if the artist can do the storytelling and the art, then they can probably write some of the dialogue. Doesn't mean you'll be the best writer of dialogue, but it will be yours. And hopefully maybe you'll impress somebody else. You'll find a real writer who goes, you know what? I like your art, but you should let me do the story. The problem with you did an earlier one of these streams, and I think it was with Shell, might have been with Shell Presto, where you were talking about how to get a team together. And I'm like, you can't get a team together without. How do you get a team together? You guys were you settled on the idea that it's better to have a team. It's more fun. Oh, Teresa Del Pio, I love her. It's better to have a team. It's more fun to have a team. But it's impossible to get a team together if you can't communicate your vision, if they don't have any kind of creative trust in you, and that's really tough. I mean, it's tough to put a band together and say, okay, yeah, I'd love to do a band. I've been playing guitar for X amount of years, and then you meet the guy and he busts out some Maroon 5, and you're like, I do not want to be in a band with that guy because I hate Maroon 5. So I thought we were going to do something that rocked a little harder, So, you run into those kinds of creative differences. There has to be a way that you can kind of carry at least all the pieces in a minimal way until you get to the point where you meet a good collaborator. And I'm kind of doing that with Evan Hill right now, Sir Handsome. Although we're not directly collaborating, we're going to try and put together this anthology of superhero stuff. And it's coming together really nicely so far. Awesome. We'll look for it in, I don't know, May or June, whenever that happens.
Absolutely. I am starting to run out of time, but I still do have like 10 minutes ish. But
sure.
I did want to get into one more aspect that I think you and I kind of relate on, which is this whole thing of kind of quantity over quality.
Yep.
And just pumping out as much work as you possibly can. I've put out a couple videos talking about this. I've put out a video called Publish or Perish that a lot of people like, but I also get some kickback on it too. We've kind of been in this tradition more and more probably since, I don't know, maybe the 80s especially, where comics people kind of have started to take it more as like a true like art form, like they're trying to put out like the most amazing art they can,
right,
type of thing. Not that they didn't in the past, but before it seemed like it was a little more focused on storytelling and putting out books that kids could read or whoever could read.
Yeah,
because it started to become like, let's see what we can do with this medium.
The graphic novel,
really cool. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I think in the process of kind of doing that and getting to a point where some of these artists are really amazing illustrators, like pristine, like just amazing. You know, sometimes we lose that storytelling, like we lose the point. Like it's supposed to still be good stories, fun stories, pulpy stories, things that people are it's kind of disposable. And at the same time, that also it raises the bar so high that anybody who wants to get into comics feels like I'll never be able to do that, you know?
Right.
But I think
Right. You take one look at the
and focusing on quantity, you know, I feel like you can make a lot more progress focusing on that than trying to get the best thing out, you know?
Absolutely, and it fits right in with the punk thing. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter. All right.
Yeah.
The top selling crowd-funded comic of all time is Order of the Stick, which is literally stick figures. Yeah. And it's very funny, by the way. It's very well written. It's a guy named Rich Burlew, and it's probably as big as it was because you know, it was kind of a D&D web comic, and it was what it was. The other one, though, that was also huge with millions and millions in readership was another one called Homestuck, right? Also very rudimentary drawings. I think the guy improved over time, and the story was really wild and crazy. It went all over the place. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter. It's great to see comics started as graphic novels. They started as graphic novels. There was like a book of woodcuts with dialogue was really the real origin. I forgot the name of it's an American guy, but he was like Dutch or something like that. And then it became a monthly or a weekly thing, right? So if you look at those Golden Age comics, those guys were so excited to be putting out comics, and a lot of them stuck around. Like if you look at Bill Everett's Submariner, that first issue, and Submariner is drawn pretty rudimentary. I think anybody watching the stream, anybody in the Discord probably draws better than Bill Everett did on his first published comic. But then if you go and you follow his career all the way to the end after World War II, and he's coming back, and I think he did his final comic is Supervillain Team Up, very first issue, and you realize, and he is the Marvel Comics look. He's got the look, and he did, he's incredible. So first of all, you will improve. It is a monthly art form. It doesn't have to be the Mona Lisa. Yeah. we shouldn't get stuck on that. It is cool. It is cool to put more and more and more stuff into your art. And in fact, like I just started colorizing. See if I have Scarab Force over here. Here's Scarab Force, which I did. It's black and white. And I did. Let's see if I've got it here. Maybe not. But I colorized it. Oh, there it is right there. So I'm going to share my screen. Right there. Can you see that?
No.
Oh, wait.
It's been a while since I've done share screen
stuff.
Oh,
Brave tab. Okay, I hear I can do it. It's 143. How about this one? So
add it here. There you go.
Okay, there we go. So there's Scarab Force in color, and I realized I should probably have been doing things in color. I know that I've got a black and white printer. I've got just like a laser printer. Really, if you go on Amazon and you search laser printers and you just like sort by the cheapest, that's the one I got, right? So, so immediately, I was thinking, oh, I'll do everything in black and white. But putting these things out in color makes them a lot more fun. So I think I might eventually go back into doing things in color. Let me stop sharing there.
Yeah. Color definitely brings some interesting aspects. It's a whole another level of storytelling that is really powerful. I feel like, music the one thing that comics lacks compared to like movies is music. Music really can help set the mood. I feel like color is our music. Like that's what helps us to set the mood,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So so speaking about all this, you've gone through this thing. You started kind of in August last year, and you've made a bunch of comics since then, and all the way to the point where you actually started in Indiegogo.
I did.
And that's going on right
There it
now.
is. Back Eult. Hopefully the link will be in the description.
Yes.
Yeah, this is 3 of my mini comics that I put together. 3 of my mini comics that I put together. It's 43 pages. You know, these all started. I can actually tell you the exact time I started because I was at FairyCon, which is this costume convention with my girlfriend, and there was a lot of boring stuff going on to me. So I had my iPad and I was like, yeah, I'll do some drawing. And that's where I came up with the character designs and did all that stuff.
Awesome.
For it. So I think I drew the splash page. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I just pretty ignorant of it, but what is the name Eult? Is that from something?
Eult. Yeah, it's from mythology. There. Well, I don't know if it's mythology. There's a story of Tristan and Isolde. Isolde. You might see it spelled like an Irish princess married to King Mark of Cornwall. But he sends his protector out to bring her back to him, and on the way they fall in love. His name is Tristan, and then there's a romance that happens. And so I hadn't gotten to that part, but I had that in mind, that I would do a romantic thing with that. But I just like the name. I also had this idea that would be I was looking at werewolf stuff, and the French werewolf is a loup-garou. Loup-garou. Love that name. So I thought, okay, well, so I used a French name, and I was looking at French names, and I was looking at a lot of mythology stuff, and that's where it came from.
Awesome. And can you tell people a little kind of basic idea of what the story's about?
Yeah, she finds out she's a werewolf in the first part of it. In this, there's, like I said, this is actually three mini comics, so it's kind of like 3 chapters, and she has powers. So the werewolf powers are pretty cool, but they're also uncontrollable. So she's like a savage when she first transforms, and another character sort of takes her away to a place without a moon until she learns how to tame her powers. Meanwhile, the whole time this is all going on, the village is under attack by these monsters called the Scourge that I came up with in Rabbit Fighter. And this has to do with the world. The world is figment. I'm kind of coming up with it in pieces, but it's a patchwork world of different realms and realities. And there's a guy called the Master Programmer that is taking over bits and pieces of it, and he's collapsing that realm. Anyways, he sends the Scourge after the village, and she can't get back there until she learns how to control her powers. She does get back there. They kind of cheat a little bit, although it's not really. It's in the subtext that she has like a Fae mentor, helps her get back to the realm, and they find out the village has already kind of been destroyed, and they there's a refugee camp, and then there's a big battle at the refugee camp between her and the forces of the Master Programmer. So I don't know.
Cool. Yeah. You've sent to a lot of us in the Discord the first couple issues, and I can't wait to see the end.
Absolutely.
Once I get that.
And we're gonna keep making them, because each story, like my idea of comics is everything's a cliffhanger ending. I always put an ending on the end that'll hang the next story up, so that something else can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a great way to go about it. It's a very traditional way to make comics too. So yeah, that's awesome. I would definitely say to everybody, like, it's an enjoyable read and a fun little story. And so go to Indiegogo, type in Iseult, you'll find it, or you can go to the description. yes, exactly. And when you see that wolf, you'll know you're in the right place.
Yes. Look for the sign of the wolf.
Yes.
By the way, these little lightning bolts,
yes,
are the lightning bolts of rage. Yeah. So you know that she's out of control when you see the lightning bolts.
Awesome. All right, man. This was a fun discussion. I definitely would love to have you on anytime again.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Good. Once again, can you let people know where to find you?
Yeah, find me right here on YouTube at the my channel is called Empyrean Vol. And I would love if you would come to the Discord and participate in the daily draw.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and I love seeing what other people come up with. We're killing sketchbooks over here. We're destroying sketchbooks.
Yes, that's the way to do it.
A lot of fun. I've got several stacked up.
Yeah. Yeah, right now I'm working on destroying comic pages, but if I get to a point where I'm on the writing stage, hopefully I'll get back to destroying sketchbooks.
Absolutely. So I slowed down a little bit too, but yeah, you're absolutely. We're gonna do this superhero anthology. Look for 9-Volt Comics coming up in May sometime.
Yeah, I'm really hoping I can get mine in time.
Yeah, it would be great. And anybody else who has an 8-page, come to the Discord and talk to us. Talk to me. We'll figure it out.
Absolutely. Cool, man. You guys know where to find me, donkeyjawprojects.com. And, thank you everybody in the chat. I know we didn't really bring in anything from the chat, but you guys were there and we see you, and we really appreciate you being in there and taking part. A lot of people from the Discord. And
wait, we already started?
What's that?
We already started? I thought we were just talking before the show. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So thanks everybody, and we will see you on the next one. All right, later.